Welcome, listeners. As you probably have picked up by now, this is a series. My good friend Sasha Shillcutt has joined me, or I've joined her, because we have these great audiences that we are joining together for this series. And we are talking about distorted thought processes, distorted thinking, things that we think and then believe and then we create. And these are self-limiting beliefs. And we're trying to go deep on this. And we're trying to help people understand that this isn't just what other people do, that we have wonderful happiness and success and failures in our life, and we think this stuff daily. The thoughts don't go away.
No, and I love this because it's so easy for us to talk about this because you and I struggle with all of these things.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people see us in one viewpoint where we look like we have it all together, and which we're both looking at each other laughing, because I'm sure if we even just told you about our morning trying to get here, you would be horrified. You would be like, oh my gosh, maybe I don't want to follow them any longer. They're real people. But we're talking about these things that women leaders often don't talk about. We think we're the only ones who think this, or we aren't even conscious we're having these thoughts, and they're holding us back without us even knowing it.
They're directing our actions, and they're directing decisions, and yet we don't recognize that we're having them. And that's why you and I wanted to do this series and get real and talk about it, is because we really hope that all of the women listening and the people listening will be able to go, wait a minute, I'm having an all or nothing thought. Wait a minute, I'm having it's too good to be true, limiting belief, and recognize those so that you can actually put a stop to not allowing it to make an actionable step that you don't actually want, or keeping you in the shadows, so to speak.
Because those thoughts are coming from our most primitive intelligence, our ego, our low self. And a lot of those thoughts have come from external, that if we just accept them and don't question them, they become internal. And now we're living our life based on external forces instead of on that spirit we have, where it's like, I came here with a purpose and I want to create and I want to help folks.
And it becomes part of our narrative.
Yeah.
Our internal, self-talk.
Self-talk.
Yeah.
Our self-talk. And the thing I've noticed about self-talk is there's no winning, because, we've talked about other self-talk, where it's like, I'm always a failure. But the weirdest thing is, even when we succeed and everything we want is happening in our lives, even then our ego tries to talk us out of, don't believe it, it's too good to be true, the other shoe's going to drop, this will only last for a little while, don't get too comfortable or happy.
Right. And then we start to, so then when we have, how many times do you as a woman, maybe you have something good happen or life is going really well, and you wait for something tragic. You're
totally
looking for something, or you're like, oh my gosh, something bad has to happen any minute because life has to be hard. It's too good to be true.
Yeah.
And
if it doesn't take effort, it doesn't count.
Exactly. Instead of thinking okay, the reason that this is happening is maybe because I have had all these life experiences that have given me the skills and the strengths or my unique gifts to gain this, to be at this spot. We go, wait a minute. This this has to be a scam, and the shoe is going to drop any minute, and everyone's going to figure out that I'm not supposed to have this, or I'm not meant to be here.
Which then I think leads to the imposter syndrome that a lot of people talk about. Because when people talk about the imposter syndrome in isolation, I'm like, I don't know that. I mean, I can talk myself out of that pretty quickly, because it's like, you know what? I don't profess to be anything amazing. So I'm not an imposter here. I'm just doing the best I can with what I got. But where I fall into imposter syndrome is this is too good to be true, or they're going to find out who I am and realize that they called the wrong person with the publisher clearinghouse. There's been a mistake here. There's many people named Cy Wakeman. Maybe you picked the wrong person.
Yeah. And it's kind of like we almost try to punish ourselves, I think, as women. We're so oftentimes scared to celebrate a success or share a success that we minimize it. We tone it down. It's funny, when I gave my TED Talk, I came off the stage, and of course the first person I called was my husband, and he still teases me about this because he wasn't able to be there, and he said, how did it go? And I said, well, I mispronounced one word. And he was like, really? Did you just hear what you said? Like, that's the first thing and it was. Of course, I was like, oh, I mispronounced, whatever word. And I was ruminating about it. I thought, okay, what is wrong with me? That here I'm minimizing something really cool that just happened to me. But it's almost like we're too afraid to just own our success or own the good things that are happening.
To the fully in it, which I think then if we pretend to be grateful, which is pretending at that point, if we can't own the biggest things that happen to us and we're like, but I am grateful that they got my coffee order right today. It's like, no. Like, that's just, but it's image managing, I think, for me. And what I mean by that is it's like, I sometimes don't step fully into what's joyful and what is come into my life because I've gotten a lot of messages about like, well, stop bragging, or who do you think you are? Or like, you're going to make somebody else feel bad. And I don't know about you, but growing up in kind of a farm community, it was like, these were stoic people. And it's like, don't brag, don't think too highly of yourself.
Right.
You're going to make other people feel bad. And I even remember like early on in my dating life, or even, my mom kind of gave me some instructions on like, don't ever overshadow like your man.
Yes.
I just got so many things where it's like, well, I overfunction in helping people not feel bad about their reality if they actually even caused it. And I've got to quit overfunctioning because your relationship with reality is yours and mine is mine. But even around if you're working with negative people, it's like hard to be like positive. You're like, everything's going my way.
Right. And I think that oftentimes too, especially for women, this, there is societal cues that say don't be too much, like don't be too happy, too
and yet
positive,
be everything.
And yet
like
be
don't
everything.
be too much, but be everything. Like be everything to everybody, but don't get too impressed with yourself.
And I just read a really interesting study that showed that male scientists quote themselves in their own research 5 times more than women scientists. And I was laughing because I was like, we actually need to take a note from this. Like women need to start quoting their own science and their research. Like we should embrace that. I mean, and it's so funny because we're so good at like promoting our kids or our spouse or someone else, but we are terrible about embracing our own successes because we are so afraid. And I get this too, being on social media, that you're going to come across and someone's going to be like, well, just be critical or act like you're bragging or send you these messages. And so then we could kind of retreat into the safe zone.
We play small.
Yes.
So that other people can feel better instead of playing big and reaching our hand out to saying, you can have a big life too.
Yes. And inspiring.
Yep. And sharing it. And I think for me, this really hits home and resonates because my want or need to be liked, I tend to play small. And part of it, I do this because if I'm not on my game and in a good place with setting boundaries, if I play big, then I at times get requests that I don't want to honor.
Right.
And so part of what I get into is playing small and just kind of keeping things kind of a secret and finding that balance, because it's not about that. I get a lot out of like, hey, guess what I did today? But with my close friends, it's like, I want to go, you know what? Something cool happened today. It's the ultimate form of gratitude. And in our office, in fact, my son who works with us started this. It's very low, but he's like, hey, I did a thing today.
Oh, I love
And when
that.
he was little, he used to say that. Like, he'd come home from school, he was like, hey, I did a thing today.
Yeah.
And that's kind of language that we learn where it's like something I worked out, or somebody gave me grace, or I got a new opportunity, or just that people can celebrate successes with you as much as at times they, are there with you during the downtimes.
Well, and I think that that's what's so beautiful about being a real leader and being real as a woman. And we talked about in previous episodes our failures. I think that there's something to be said with, sharing a success and owning your success as much as there is owning a failure. I don't think that we were created to hide our success. I'm not promoting being arrogant. That's not what I'm talking about. But man, when I see a woman succeeding, it inspires me. And so many times we, as women, we can't see what we can't be, or we can't be what we can't see. And so for me, like, I think it's really important to be like, you know, I gave a TED Talk because I want other women that are just like me, that are moms, that are physicians, that are working, that are teachers, that are whatever, even, you know, whatever you're doing, whatever time of life you are, to see that I'm both out there like trying and succeeding, but I'm also struggling and failing at the same, and that both of those things can be true. Because it's not like you get asked to give an amazing talk to 10,000 people because nothing bad has ever happened to you, or you've ever failed at something, or you're not going to fail in the future.
Or even I was crying a half hour before that because somebody said something mean to me.
Exactly.
And I think part of what we're out there doing as women is we talk a lot about share your successes and share your failures, and we're still in that ego dichotomy of like all or nothing and good or bad.
Right.
What if we just shared ourselves?
Our truth. Yeah.
Our truth. And then people could be with us knowing that it's rich and messy and that life's messy, but you can still be happy. Like, just because I'm feeling doesn't dictate my emotions that I'm sad, or just because I'm succeeding doesn't dictate my emotions I'm happy. What if life was more complex than that? And what if we could, I love that when you said many things can be true at once. I think true vulnerability or intimacy with my friends is when in the same conversation, we can have many things be true at once.
Yes.
Your mom's sick and dying. You just got a big promotion. One of your kids you're a little concerned about, and I love you. Like,
yes.
What if that's coming together as women, that it really is? Because, and I just noticed we do this in our podcast. We're like, share your failures, share your successes. And
it's funny because that is the definition of growth. Like, you're never going to be, you don't want to be stagnant. If you were always succeeding, that means whatever you're doing is super easy.
Yeah.
And I hate to...
Yeah, you're not taking enough risks.
You're not taking enough risks, right? So to me, it's about really sharing your success, but sharing your failures. And I love that just sharing you, believing that there are going to be times, it's an ebb and flow, where life is easy. It's okay. It's okay that life is good. It's okay that everything, all the cylinders are firing. You don't have to seek out drama or tragedy to suddenly make yourself have value or make it be okay to have the success. It's going to come, it's going to ebb, and it's going to flow. And I think as women, we need to just give ourselves permission to be real like that.
In the moment and experience it as it is, and quit being suspicious of things that are effortless. You know, I do a lot of transcendental meditation, and meditation, according to TM, is supposed to be effortless. And a lot of people, it's like, oh, I meditate. It's super hard to sit for 5 minutes and not, you know, and not get off your mantra. And I'm like, it's suspicious when something's effortless. And it's like something I walk with. I'm like, life is as effortless as I let it be, because my attachments to highs and lows are what create this belief that it needs to be effort or it needs to be hard. When I just let it come, it just is. And it's really, it's effortless. But I think that we want somehow the drama, because we don't believe we deserve it. When it's bad, we make it really bad. It's not just I forgot today, or I sent a text to somebody, the wrong person. I have egg on my face because I acted in a horrible way. That's just like, oh my God, humans do that. Just go apologize to her. Right. It's like I have to add on, and that means I'm the worst person in the world. And when it's successful, it's like, you know, I have to, you know, feel like I don't deserve that either. I think being authentic is just like stepping fully into just this present moment. And it doesn't mean anything in the future. It doesn't mean anything in the past. It just is. And in this moment, multiple things can be true.
And don't you find it hard as often as a leader to really challenge yourself to be brave enough that day to step into a space that someone, you know, without that fear of someone saying, well, you haven't always been like that, Sai.
Yeah.
Like, you haven't always been perfect, Sai. Like, sometimes
that's the emotional blackmail.
Yes. Sometimes I'll want to post something inspirational or encouraging and share something that's really positive going on in my life. And then instantly there's this little voice that goes like, well, remember that one time or that one person you weren't perfect too, or like that too. So what if they read your post and then they share this about you? Well, the truth is that I'm not a perfect person. You're not a perfect leader. There are always going to be times in our life that people can throw mud at our face. Like, that's just reality. I think we have to accept that about each other. And as women, we really have to just give ourselves space to be authentic, which means the good, the bad, all of it.
All of it.
All of it.
All of it. And I just had an insight listening to, I always learn when we're together is it's like, you know, people encourage me a lot. They're like, share more of your story on Instagram, put more stuff out there. You know, my staff is like, people love it when they see your personal stuff. And part of my playing small at times is like sometimes, you know, afraid of appearing like I'm bragging because, you know, or appearing like, you know, I'm putting in your face that, you know, I've had a success.
Right.
And isn't it funny that we find ways as women to isolate ourselves no matter what's going on with our life? This is the series that we've put.
Yes.
I isolate myself because I get all or nothing, or I think my failures define me, or I don't want to share my successes, it might be bragging. Like, every one of these pieces of distorted thinking is the work of the ego to keep you alone and isolated so that this greatness, this source of all good doesn't come into the world. It keeps us playing small. And what happens a lot of times when we are bragging is we go from like violence or silence to violence. Like we come out and we're like, oh, I will tell you how great I am. That's not authentic either, because it's always dictated out of our low self.
Well, and it's funny because in several months ago for spring break, we took all of our kids to Hawaii. No, we've never done this. This was a huge trip, you know, to take all of our kids to Hawaii. And I remember thinking, like, I don't think I should post pictures of this.
I felt that way too when I'm in Africa on safari.
Right. And I don't want people to think that, like, I have this, you know, life. When the reality is that, like, you know, I grew up very, you know, middle class. I never went to Hawaii. Like, that would never have happened. I've worked really hard to be able to save to take my kids on this trip, which was really special. All of their spring breaks aligned. And, you know, I thought, why am I afraid to post a picture of myself on social media with my friends? And all,
when I'm having the time of my life.
I'm, like, enjoying. And then at the end of the week, I kept thinking, like, something bad's going to happen next week because we just had this, like, amazing vacation. So something bad has to happen. And I really recognized that I was having this too good to be true.
Too good to be true.
Limiting belief instead of enjoying the moment, enjoying the wonderful, amazing experience with my family and just cherishing that time. I was letting all these beliefs kind of think like, oh, I shouldn't show this because I'll be bragging on social media and the reality is that if someone texts me or posts like, oh, you know, this person's really bragging, like that's their own story. Mm-hmm. That's their narrative. It has nothing to do with me. I can't control that. Just like I can't control if something were too bad to happen the next week. Like that's out of my control. So I have to be in the moment. And just not buy into this. It's too good to be true.
In the moment destroys all stories. Because let's say that I work in an organization where I have tried to sell people on the story that the culture is toxic, and one day I'm actually having fun at work. I can't fully have fun because I'm like, whoa, I have a lot invested in the story. And I find even in my relationship sometimes with my own husband, it's like if I'm kind of in the story that he isn't, the best husband this week, like all of a sudden I do find ourselves having fun, and I'm like, whoa. I want to be right about this relationship having problems. I'm not going to surrender.
Yeah.
And I think I need to realize that if I'm not fluid enough and able to be present enough, it is probably my attachment to some beliefs that have locked me in to external forces thinking for me rather than me really checking in with me and finding out what I think or what I feel.
And it's the always.
Mm-hmm. It's like, always never.
Yeah. Like how many times, do you find yourself saying to your spouse or whoever, like, well, you always do that. Or maybe it's about your work environment. And then when they don't fulfill that prophecy, you don't know how to. Yeah. You're like, wait a minute. You loaded the dishwasher. Like, what's happening? Like,
and then you're careful. You're like, I don't want to give you credit for doing the very thing I've asked you to do, because then you'll we're funny people. The bottom line of all of this is fear, fear, fear. I'm afraid of giving you credit. I'm afraid this is too good to be true. I'm afraid of what other people will think. I'm afraid, which leads us right back to become brave enough, even just for today. What if we recognized the fear, we paused, we recognized the fear, and we did the counterintuitive thing that we know scientifically will lead us to connection, to supporting women, to collaboration, to this. But it's getting intentional and conscious with our lives. If you're living out of self-limiting beliefs, you're being lived by stories from who knows where. I think becoming brave enough is to become brave enough to pause and reflect, to observe and choose, to get intentional, to ask me if this is what I want, or if this is my true heart, if competing with you across the table is really a reflection of my true heart. And so I think our whole series has really summed up to trying to recognize when we're in fear-based belief systems that were given to us by other fearful people.
Yes.
When we're scared and we're in scarcity, just recognizing it and choosing a path of abundance where we choose to believe something different.
Yes.
We choose our beliefs for ourselves.
And it's about small actions. I named my company and this whole movement Brave Enough, and people think it means something big, like brave enough to follow your dreams.
Yeah.
But
I'm going to quit my job and go to the Antarctic. Because I've always wondered about how shrimp live in ice.
But what it really is just being brave enough every day, just for that day, to live authentically and to go like, okay, am I curating my life about this? Am I living this narrative of this story that I've built for myself? Yeah. That's what it really means. So
brave enough to take a nap some days. Brave enough
to go to Walmart in jogging pants and a t-shirt and not think that you have to always look perfect. Brave enough to say, you know what, I have this story about you that you don't like me, even though I really always wanted to be your friend.
Yeah. Brave enough to, just believe that we are enough. I mean, that's a brave move. Brave enough to believe we are enough. And you know what? For me, that's lowering my standards. Like when I found out, people are like, well, it's just that you don't feel good enough. I'm like, well, I just have to be good enough? Like, whoa, back up. Like, when was someone going to tell me that was the goal? I got so much happier when I raised the goal from being better than everybody, having insurance. Like, if they said it had to be 10 pages for a project, I would have handed in 2 bonus pages just in case they needed to know anything else about. And when I started to feel, a lot of people, I understand they feel like they aren't enough, and I do too in many ways, but when it's just, all you have to be is enough, you guys. Yeah. It's just enough.
Yeah.
And I love that. And I love that we just have to be brave enough and for today and in this moment. So, women, check your belief systems. As you're friending others, help them check their belief systems.
Yes.
Let's drop this stuff because it kills the joy. Every one of the beliefs we talked about, scarcity, all of this stuff kills the joy. And the one thing that fuels burnout is lack of joy.
Absolutely.
And we need more joy in our worlds. And what I love about all of this is this doesn't require you to become anything else. It doesn't require you to do anything else. No. It requires you to get more clear about who you really are. Like, reveal your truth. It's taking away drama and excess and revealing the truth of the matter. So we at Reality Based Leadership talk a lot about interrupt your thinking. And reveal the truth, try it on for size.
Love it.
And then you got to practice this stuff because it's progress, not perfection.
Absolutely.
And that's what I think people can do with this stuff. I would be remiss if I didn't brag on my own, and you get to brag on yours. But folks, if you're not following me, I'm at Cy Wakeman on all social media. I love to feed people from Instagram. My podcast is called No Ego, and I have just some wonderful things out there. If you're a nurse and you're a leader, we have an amazing webinar series we just came out with on how to be great at leading nurses and leading in healthcare. And so would love for you to share these things with women you care about, people you want to be friends with. Just put it in the email. Heard a great podcast. I would like to be your friend. Like, use this to really start to build your relationships. And I want you to brag on your...
Oh, I love this. It just ties so so well. And that's why this is so easy for us, because we have so many collaborative and creative ideas that align with both of our audiences. And so if you're out there listening, you can find me on Twitter at Are You Brave Enough, like the letter R, you Brave Enough. The easiest thing is just to go to my website, becomebraveenough.com. I have a podcast there. I primarily talk to women in medicine. However, my website is really applicable across all lines. And if you're a woman physician and you're really looking and you're entering a new leadership space, check out Cy Wakeman. She has amazing content and online classes, which are completely doable for women that are professionals constantly working to do and work into your life. So, Cy, we're just getting started.
We're just getting started. We're going to practice what we preach, and I'm so excited. I'm going to attend the Brave Enough Conference as a guest. I guess I get an honorary medical degree for the day or something. I'll try not to practice without a license and start prescribing. But you're just doing amazing work in the world. I'm so glad that we met.
I'm so glad.
We get to gush all over each other because we have microphones.
It's so fun.
Find your person out there.
Yes.
Find your person. And we talk a lot about women, but whatever that is for you, find your person, get vulnerable. You're leaving too much on the table. You got to get what you came for. And the only way to get that is to get real, authentic, vulnerable, and let people see you all places of your life. So be seen.
Absolutely. And live brave just for that day. That's all you need. You just need to be brave enough to live authentically one day at a time.
If you don't do it the whole day,
it's okay.
Do one brave thing a day.
Yeah, exactly.
Like start where you are. Thank you for being my friend, and thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much, Cy.
This is the No Ego Podcast, where we ditch the drama and entitlement and transform your world place. I'm Cy Wakeman.